let's talk about something that I know sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry, old tax records. But trust me on this one, because hidden in these dusty old books are some of the most incredible human stories you'll ever find about your ancestors. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It reframes the whole idea. We're not looking at boring financial documents. We're looking at a ledger of survival, a list of who is there, holding on through the toughest part of the year, and exactly what they were responsible for. And that's really the big question, isn't it? What's the story that your family's ledger has to tell? Think of these records like a treasure map. They're full of clues that can lead you to a way deeper understanding of your family's place in the world. So let's start with this idea of a winter ledger. Especially in places like Appalachia, these year-end filings were special. They basically took a whole year's worth of life, land deals, livestock, the tools in the barn, and bam, condensed it all into one single official snapshot for the county. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really understand the stories, you first have to learn the language of these documents. What are we actually looking at when we unroll one of these things? At their heart, it's pretty straightforward. Tax assessments, and their copies called duplicates, were simply the county's official master list of who owned what. It was all about figuring out the value of land and personal stuff to calculate how much tax everybody owed. And this is where the raw data starts to paint a real picture. I mean, you get the owner's name and how many acres they had, sure, but the real gold is in the details. Those little notes scribbled in the margins about neighbors or sales or even local landmarks, they can literally place your ancestor on a map in a specific moment in time. But it gets so much deeper than just acres on a map. These records give us this amazing peek into the physical world of a household. They show us the actual tools they use to work, to eat, to survive. For starters, you've got livestock. You see how many cattle a family owned, and suddenly you know something about their food source, their access to milk, butter, and meat. It's a real measure of their daily sustenance. And then you see horses and mules. Come on, these weren't just pets. They were the engine of the entire farm. The number of draft animals they had tells you a ton about the scale of their operation. And finally, the equipment itself. If they had a wagon, well, that meant they could get their goods to market. When you see specific tools listed, you can almost feel that tangible connection to the hard work they did day in and day out. And this is where it gets really fun, when you start comparing entries side by side. You might see that Household A is just scraping by, while Household B is doing pretty well for themselves. But you also find these fascinating little notes, like about neighbors sharing tools. And that reveals this whole hidden economy built on cooperation. This wasn't just about being nice. Sharing tools could literally be the difference between a good harvest and a brutal winter. You know, these ledgers weren't all about assets and success. They also recorded the flip side of that coin, the financial struggles, the risks, and the real human drama of trying to hold on to what you've built. And then you see it, this one single word, scribbled next to an ancestor's name, delinquent. And the whole story just takes a turn. It means they couldn't pay their taxes, and that kicked off a process that put their entire livelihood, everything they owned, on the line. The key thing here is that this wasn't instant. The records let you track the escalating stakes, but they also show you something incredible, resilience. So often you'll find another little note, one showing that a brother or an uncle or a cousin stepped in to guarantee that debt, saving the family farm right at the last minute. So beyond tracking individual families, these records hold what might be their most powerful secret. They can actually map out the entire social fabric of a community, showing us relationships that no other document ever could. I mean, just look at how the order of the entries tells a story. When you see the same family names listed one after another, or notes about whose land borders whose, you're not just looking at a list. You're looking at a map of family connections. That could be a father and son farming side by side, or maybe a sister who married into the Jones family, but still lives right next to her brother. It's a support network, made visible. Now, as incredible as a tax record is, and it really is, it's so important to remember that it's just one piece of the puzzle. You have to use it as a starting point, not the final word. I absolutely love this analogy because it's so true. Each year's tax list is like a single frame from a much, much longer film. It tells you exactly what was happening in that one moment. But to really understand the plot, you've got to see the other frames.
And here's how you find those other frames. You build your toolkit. You take the clues from the tax list and you start cross-referencing. A note about a land sale? That sends you digging through the deed books. A delinquent tax notice? That points you to sheriff sale notices in the old newspapers. Each document confirms and adds color to the others, building a much richer and more accurate history.
So, the next time you see a tax record, don't just see a boring list of names and numbers. See it for what it truly is. A ledger from a winter long, long ago, a story of survival, a map of deep family ties, and a testament to the incredible resilience of the people who came before us. So, what stories are waiting for you in your family's ledger?